Hey, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of Back to the Light. I am your host, JD Reager. Joining me soon is musician Dirk Kitterlin, but joining me now is my good friend, Jeff Hulett. Jeff, how you doing?
Hey JD, how's it going?
Man, I'm doing okay. I'm living the dream. How about yourself?
It's been a tough week, if I'm honest, but rising above it. It's a college prank.
Well, since you kind of brought it up, I am actually kind of curious since you are a father of daughters,
Yes, yes,
Abu
yes.
Albonat in Arabic. I don't know if you've seen The West Wing, but I'm curious throughout this whole process, how have you been explaining this to your kids, especially the outcome?
Yeah, it's a great question. My kids are 13 and 10, so it's kind of a different conversation with each of them, somewhat talking about, women's rights and all that sort of stuff. We're kind of keeping it, 30,000 foot view, just saying, keeping it positive, keeping it light, but personally for me and my wife, we are devastated and very upset. And uh so many other words that fall under the negative sort of landscape. You know me, I'm a positive, optimistic person, but it felt like a real big gut punch.
Do you feel extra pressure to stay positive for their benefit?
Sure. I mean, we kind of have this running joke right now. Being a dad of daughters is and the ages that they're both at. My wife is like, you need to be more like a cat, like less like a dog that's like, hey guys, I tend to be a little what's the word? I pick them up from school and I'm like, how's your day? It's like, I'm always in their face, and Annie's like, need to be a little bit more like a cat. Play a little hard to get with these girls, because they're at ages where they're a little more independent than they were when they were, say, 5 and 8.
I'm sure as a PR professional, it's hard for you to lay back like that.
Yeah, it is. I've learned to have thick skin in many realms of my life, but especially as a father, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna play it cool. I'm gonna play it cool.
As a creative, are you feeling, I know it's, the outcome is very recent. It's only a week ago today as we record this. But do you feel in any way like a greater impetus to put something positive into the world, especially starting in the new year?
Yeah. I do. I mean, I tend to try to stay positive. I'm always writing, I'm always creating. You know this though, JD, as like a writer, as a creative, I tend to be a little more sort of what's the word? I can go a little dark with my writing, but yeah, I am purposely trying to write more sort of bubbly, upbeat. You and I have talked about that because I do tend to write in like that mid-range sort of, I don't know if the word is stoic, but yeah. Simple question is yes, I'm planning on creating things that are a little bit more upbeat and positive.
You're kind of a notoriously prolific, not only recorder and you release a lot of music, but you also play a lot of gigs and a lot of interesting gigs. I would say,
Yeah.
I mean, I still see you at the night at the nightclubs, but but you also play your fair share of family events. Is that
Yeah.
is that challenging to get up there, at the crafts fair or whatever, and be singing personal sad songs?
No, I love to play and I love playing with any, format of the band. You saw me and Jacob play at the Valentine Evergreen Art Walk recently, and that was just a blast. We opened things up, you play for an hour, you're kind of background music, but
See, I find those environments totally, they're very hard for me to deal with. Like I don't I don't
sure.
I don't take being background well.
No, and I totally get that. But then conversely, like coming up this Friday, or when by the time this comes out, maybe I don't know when it's coming out, but big release show at the Cove. So I mean that's like
We probably won't
you,
make it in time. Sorry, buddy.
oh, it's all good. You do the sort of behind the community events, you play those shows and it's fun to be with your friends and your bandmates, but then you also get to play like these bigger shows that are a little bit more important and meaningful to us because we've created something and we want to share that, we want to celebrate that. I'm really trying to get in the habit of just celebrating uh just anything because everyone in our world, we're moving so fast, and by the time we like check that box, we're like on to the next thing, when really we should be like, wow, like I just wrote that story or finished that project or finished that album or whatever it is. I'm trying to be more uh thoughtful about just being like, we did that, let's celebrate that, let's own that we did that, and like have a great time.
At the same time, you're still doing a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, yeah, always. I'm working on projects with my friends Melissa, Adam, and Chris, who we make up the Restless Townies. Chris is in Brooklyn, Melissa's in Burbank, going to Glendale, Arizona. She's moving there. Adam is in Denver, and we're always working on stuff. Small batch. With Aaron Railing, we're putting together compilations. We hope to get a Christmas song from you, JD Reager, for this year. Your contributions are always top notch. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And just having those types of creative projects going is really fun. I'm even, of course I am, right? I'm working on this sort of art project with my friend Alex Smythe. He's a photographer. He's like taking pictures based on songs I've written, and I'm writing songs based on pictures he's taken, and we're calling it Emotions Without People. And we're really excited about it. We'll have something probably in the new year to share, probably February or March, but that's in process. So
I could
um,
I could see some cool possibilities of that, like a book and music co-release kind of a
yes,
thing or something.
exactly. Yeah, and that's what we're trying to think through now. Like, how do people experience an art show with music that's not like live performance? So we're thinking like QR codes while people look at photographs, and then, like you said, having some piece that's like a takeaway. Um, or if you bought one of Alex's photographs, you also get your some kind of track or special. We do something interesting that made it extra special, so they're also getting the music that goes along with it.
Cool, man. That sounds like a fun project. You'll have to let me know how that develops.
I will. Yeah, and
No pun intended on the photography
yeah,
there.
yeah. Oh, I got it. Uh Lastly, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a ton of other projects going on, but Chad Nixon,
Yeah.
um, he's always writing cool stuff and kind of ideating on different songs. We're working on some covers of some awesome like 90s indie songs. So we're doing like a Pavement song, a Built Spill song, a Neutral Milk song, and a Lily song, and that'll be out probably around the holidays. Just something that's free for people to download and get into. And he's just a lot of fun to work with.
How do you decide for your original material, like, oh, this song is going to be a Jeff Hewlett song, this song is going to be a Snow Globe song, this song is going to be whatever? Like, does it just happen that like whoever you're talking to that day is where the song falls, or how do you decide that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say these days, most songs, I'd say about 90% goes to Jeff Hewlett and the Hand-Me-Downs because I've really like pushed my chips to the center of the table with that band. I love working with Jacob and Ben.
Do you see a difference between the hand-me-downs and yourself as like a solo entity?
A little bit. However, some of the sort of solo stuff ends up being played live by the Hand-Me-Downs. And we're even talking about recording some old songs that are a part of our live set, like live. we want to do something with like Andrew McCullough, just set up one afternoon and just knock out like 10 songs that they weren't involved in on the original recordings, but they've made it better by years of playing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I've kind of thought of doing something similar with my band, actually.
I mean, it's just like the way we play, like "Come On Down," which is an old Jeffrey James in the Hall song, is so different that we play. It's like fast, In the Hall, it was slow, and I love that version. But I also love like reimagining things, and I know you like covers too, like random sort of like you actually covered a Snow Globe song.
It's been a while, but yeah.
Regime. Yeah. I like your telekinesis cover.
Oh, thank you. I haven't thought about
That
that in a
is
while,
a
but yeah.
great cover. And that's a great song.
I've
Um,
I've thought about collecting those covers and a few other things and maybe doing some new ones and putting out like a covers album or something, but
you
it's such
should.
it's just such well-worn territory.
No, totally. And I get that. Like I love creating and I love like the process and like collaborating with friends and doing stuff like that. And then it's out in the world and then I'm just kind of like, cool, it's out there. And then um there's just I got a lot of stuff cooking.
Well, let's talk about the main thing that's cooking, and that's your record, Little Windows. Tell me,
Yeah,
I mean, is this a band record? Is this a solo record? What is it? Because I haven't even heard it yet.
sure. It's a band record. So this is technically the first. No, that's not true. We used the hand-me-downs on this two-song EP we put out a couple years ago. But yeah, this is vinyl record. Got a grant from Music Export Memphis, had it pressed at Memphis Record Pressings. Jeff Powell did the lacquers. Jacob Church, who's in the band, was the engineer, kind of the producer. You got Jacob Church, electric guitar, vocals, Ben Church, bass vocals, Lee Salmons on the kit, Jonathan Shallert on keys. He also plays some other odds and ends, trumpet, melodica. I play acoustic guitar and sing. It's a 8-song record, 4 songs each side. The art was done by Karen Mulford, a local artist who's amazing. It's called Little Windows, and we've been working on it for about 12 months, and it's ready for prime time. Got a big show, Cove, and it's all my songs. It's all original songs, and some of which we've been playing live for a few years, and they've really kind of taken shape. And then some other ones are more just studio kind of songs that we'll play. We probably won't play them all the time because they're a little bit more nuanced. But yeah, I'm really excited about the record. I'm really excited about the way the studio in his house in Central Gardens, and like we were able to stretch our legs, let our hair down, kind of like see where it could go, and I think it went great places.
Well, yeah, tell me about more about recording with Jacob. Like how is it different like working with an outside producer
Sure.
as opposed to like someone who's in the band?
Yeah, Jacob is just so caring and thoughtful and brilliant. Like he knows how to do that whole suite of things that I'm like not great at. Like I record on GarageBand at home and I like what I do and I'm like proud of what I do, but like it's just different because uh he's got his own little mastering company called JLC, and then he's a JLC Audio, and then he records people here and there. I think he's trying to grow that sort of business.
Yeah, yeah.
And that
I used him to master the last couple of Subteens thing.
Okay, great,
Yeah, yeah.
great. Then I mean he's conscientious. He's in the recording process, having him uh in the band as well, as he's like, that's too much, or like, let's explore that more, or so you have a little more leg room to not just be like, okay, like we did it and like our time's up. It's like we had this a lot of time to work on it, which was really great.
That's the snow globe way.
I mean, it is, but hey, you'll be proud because there's not like 17 guitar tracks, and it's like It sounds like a band. Not that Snow Globe doesn't, but Snow Globe sounds like an orchestra.
Maybe early Snow Globe, maybe like the first Snow Globe record doesn't really sound like a band. It sounds more like a recording project. You know what I mean?
Yes,
But
yes,
but
yes.
but pretty much after that, it sounds like a band.
No, that's true. That's fair. That's fair. Um, but yeah, so Jeff Hewlett and the Hand Me Downs album, just it really just sounds great. Like everyone has space, it's like Lee Salmons, awesome drummer, super tasteful, like unbelievable in the pocket. Jonathan Shallert teaches at Crosstown High, GPAC, like he's Mr. Theory, and he's like knows everything. I guess the Church Brothers are too. I don't know how to write music or do any of that sort of stuff. So having them involved is helps me, I guess, in a way.
As a drummer yourself, do you ever find yourself having input on what your drummers play?
Maybe here and there, like just minor things, just like, oh, this is like break part, halftime, drop out completely, go nuts. Like I try to be a little hands off in that area because I know what it's like to like, be in a band where there's like 17 other drummers. Um,
I remember that band, I think.
yeah. So but yeah, it's cool for me too to not play drums on my own stuff because I know what I would play and it's totally different than what Lee plays and I like what Lee plays.
The challenge for me is not recording the song myself, like not getting too far into the process before including the band. Because
Yes.
if I'm home and working on it, it's really, really easy for me to just like, you know, throw up the drum kit and just do it myself. And having sometimes that's a challenge for me to just be patient and let the band have their
Same.
time to work on it.
No, I totally hear that. And that's how some of the solo stuff is. I'll get to a certain point and then I'll be like, "Oh, like I've done like tons of stuff and like, you know, I should probably stop and share it if I want, you know, input from the rest of the band." But um it's fun too to play drums, right? It's like, we're more songwriters now, but we're cut our teeth as drummers and it's when I get to play drums on a song, I freaking love it.
Yeah, I
Um,
like playing the drums. Playing the drums is a lot of fun. You know what's not fun though is moving drums.
it's the worst thing ever, you
Uh,
know?
you put out a lot of records in the last few years, a lot of CDs and digital releases, and even like, I think a couple of 7 inches. Even was it
Even a
important?
tape, I put out a tape.
Oh yeah, that's right. Was it important for you to have this one specifically on like 12-inch vinyl?
Yes. This one there was definitely a thought process, and I don't know this to be true, but there was definitely like, this batch of songs deserves to be in this format, something that people can hold and have in their collection. And it's not just like a throwaway CD. And also, it made me think too, like, this might be the last vinyl I ever do, just because A, it's expensive. B, it's like, who knows what's going to happen, So it's like, put all of our, again, chips into the center of the table. We're all in, you know?
Well, before we move on to something else, do you want to tell folks where they can find the record if they're looking to buy it, either the physical copy or just, listen to it, stream it, whatever?
Yes. You can find the record at Shangri-La Records. You can find the record at Bandcamp, Small Batch Records, bandcamp.com. You can find it Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all the streaming places. Um, yeah, it'll be out there.
Jeff, uh, I love Memphis. I came back to Memphis, on purpose to be back here. But at the same time, I acknowledge Memphis can be a challenging place to operate as an artist. I'm curious, is it ever an issue? Do you ever have issues like staying positive or like staying into it in moments where, you know, Memphis can be thankless and unappreciative? Do you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, and of course, like, yes. I mean, sometimes I think the work that I do, the work that other people do might not get the attention that other artists get. But then I also know that I have no control over that. And all I can do is, send my record places and say, hey, would you be interested in uh playing this on your radio show or writing about this? And if they do, great. And if they don't, like, I try not to let it beat me down. But yeah, I mean, I can only control what I'm doing, and I try to be proactive and I try to get in front of people. What does boost me up and put wind in my sails is the stuff that I have put out there. And I know that this probably happens to you too. Like occasionally, not a lot, but like I'll get a Facebook message or I'll get a text or an Instagram or uh, whatever it is, and some random person will just say, hey, I heard that song on WYXR or Weevil or whatever, and they'll say something nice about it. And it's just like, okay, like someone cares, and that's nice. If one person cares, then I'll keep doing
That's a very healthy attitude, Jeff.
it.
Uh, no, I'm not being sarcastic. It's a struggle for me sometimes. I'm, just being honest.
Yeah, and I get it. It's like you have a music scene and a legacy town of music, and clicks happen and things happen, and I'm not even saying it's bad. It's just like I think as a music scene, we'd all do better if there was like not the same stuff, all like the same shows all the time. So I don't know if I'm a part of that solution, but I do try to occasionally to try to mix it up and play with like folks that I normally would never play with, just so maybe their crowd would get into what I'm doing or my crowd would get into what they're doing. So
I definitely notice, and we talked about this earlier, that you make an effort to meet people where they're at. There's not a lot of Midtown Memphis bands that go out to Arlington and play.
no, totally. It's like yeah, a few weeks back we went out to Lakeland and played this festival and
Oh,
it
that's what I
was
meant, Lakeland.
yeah,
Same.
yeah, it was
Man, it's all the same out
it's
there.
all the same. Yeah, it's fun to play, and honestly, like some of those shows, I'm not gonna lie, like we make a little scratch, make a little money and get to pay the guys a little bit. We have some fun, have a few beers, it's like 2 hour engagement in the middle of the day on a Saturday, and it's not getting in the way of anything else. And it also is a great way leading up to our record release show to where we don't have to scramble to practice because we're already pretty tight. We are going to practice.
No, that's cool. Whatever you want to do, Jeff. Play it. You can Memphis it up this time if you want.
Tighten it up at the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tighten the screws mid song.
Yeah.
We'll get the
Yeah.
second verse. We'll nail the second verse.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. I try to stay positive. You know that.
Well, Jeff, good luck with the release coming up, which has probably already happened as people are listening to this. And yeah, check out the record Little Windows. I don't know, maybe send me a copy or something. I kind of want to hear it.
Oh yeah, I'll bring you one up to the shop.
Okay, I'll be there
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah. I'm gonna come in on Friday.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
because I want to have it available, for people, because that's where it drops on all the sites, November 15th, and then have it at Shangri-La. So I'll bring you a copy, and maybe you guys will purchase a few and we'll
Yeah, maybe we'll see.
maybe. I went into the store yesterday to try to buy that new Cure record, but you guys don't have it yet.
Don't get me started.
Don't get me started with these distributors, right?
Am I right?
Am I right? Am I right? So,
Okay.
well, that was great.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks so much.
No, thanks so much for having me, JD. I love what you're doing.
I love what you're doing.
I love you.
I love you too. As promised, my next guest is another fine Memphis musician, Dirk Kitterlin. Dirk, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. It's going pretty good.
Well, let's just get right into it. We're here mainly to talk about your new record, which is called Tempus Novare. I don't know. Tell me about it.
Well, Tempus Novare is a collection of instrumental tracks that I have built and put together maybe over the past 5 years, something like that. Uh, it's a collection of electronic compositions. So it's very synth heavy, but also I'm a bass player, so it has some electric bass in there and a lot of drum machine programming and kind of doesn't really fit into a particular genre. Um, so I just kind of say it's electronic or instrumental electronic.
Uh, have you always been into electronic music? Because it's a pretty big departure from the kind of stuff I think of you as doing.
So I guess I really got into electronic music back whenever I was working with Clay Otis, Clay Hardy, with his musical project, um, and the synth pop sound that he sort of harnessed in some of his work was really inspirational to me. And I just kind of dived into the world of synthesizers. Starting with software synths, and then started collecting various hardware, and then uh, it kind of became a little bit of an kind of an addiction of collecting and compiling little rigs of hardware synthesizers, and then I would have a collection of synths and I would write a bunch of songs, and then I would kind of get tired of them and or I would need some cash and I would sell them. So I kind of went through these different iterations of setups, and the album is sort of just a collection of that, some different eras of different synth rigs that I put together, and was mainly just working on stuff for the fun of working on it, just kind of as an after work release. You know, come in and write some music, and just um, kind of put me in a good headspace when I could write. So I really enjoyed doing it, and ended up coming up with a whole bunch, a plethora of material.
I've known a lot of electronic and keyboard musicians who are like that. Like they get a new piece of gear and write like a ton of stuff based on that piece of gear and then burn themselves out on it. And then, you never hear from that gear again.
Yeah, and then I think there's some psychology along with it. If you've ever heard of gas or gear acquisition syndrome, where there is I'm sure it's some sort of dopamine hit whenever you buy something expensive like a synthesizer, or if you find a great deal on a used synth and you're like, I can't pass this up. I've got to purchase this because and you convince yourself that you need all of these things or to make your setup work. Uh,
Totally. I collect baseball cards and toys, but I mean, it's a similar dopamine rush when you find what you feel like is a huge score.
Absolutely. And in the synth world, it just opens up the doorway to a whole lot of fun, exploration, implementation, um, figuring out that you don't have enough inputs on your audio interface, so then you buy a new audio interface, and then so things can kind of snowball, and to unhealthy places. And I've been on the I've been on the edge of that, if not slightly over the edge. So I think I've stared into the synth abyss, and it definitely stared back at me, and that's why I made an album.
Do you feel like you're like doing this to sort of document your synth phase and that you might be moving on once celebrate this release?
I don't think so. I think I've landed in the world of electronic or electroacoustic instrumental compositions, and I feel like this is the music that I'm going to be making for longer term. I don't know that it'll. I think that genre-wise, there will still be a lot of exploration within the electronic and ambient kind of paradigm, but um, I think I've I consider myself to be a synth artist at this point.
That's interesting, man. Do you see yourself completely dedicated to instrumental as well, or could you see yourself writing some lyrics for something in the future?
You know, it's one of those crazy things. I have never really loved any lyrics that I've written.
Same.
And so I, part of me says, yeah, I would love to have some vocal elements in the music. I don't consider myself to be a great singer either. I can sing, but I don't consider myself to be as talented a singer as I am a composer. But with that said, I'm hoping to that this sort of opens the doorway to future collaborations with other artists who are either interested in a synth sound or you know are interested in creating lyrics for melodies that exist within the music or collaborations. I feel like some of my favorite, I guess I'll cite two of my really favorite artists, and that's Radiohead or The Smile with the partnership that Tom York and Johnny Greenwood have, and then also the Flaming Lips with Wayne Coyne and Stephen Drozd. So I feel like uh, part of me, I feel like I'm a Johnny or a Stephen looking for my Tom or Wayne. Um, so
Surely there's a Vest brother around somewhere who could do that for you.
maybe, maybe.
How are those guys doing? I haven't talked to well, I've seen Toby sort of recently, but it's been forever since I saw Jake.
Uh, they're doing well. I saw Jake at the end of July. He had come into town for something, and I got to hang with him. And I see Toby sporadically, and keep in touch via text with both of them. And of course, Jake is releasing Tempus Novare on his American Grapefruit record label.
Is that going to be digital only release, or are you guys going to have like
It is
cassettes or vinyl or anything?
digital only at this point. I haven't ruled out doing a cassette. If I do a release, it will most likely be a cassette. Um, and we have I won't say it's not a secret because I'm about to sort of announce it, but there's also a video album that accompanies the recording.
Oh, cool. Did you make
That
that yourself as well?
I did. It's I call it visualizations. So it's some software tricks that I pulled together, and then Jake took the video that I created and pulled it onto VHS, and then back off of VHS into the digital realm, and made it a American Grapefruit home video release. So I would love to put it out on VHS.
Oh, that'd be something. Does anybody make VHS anymore? I mean, I guess you could just dub copies yourself.
Uh, yeah, I don't know if anybody makes VHS anymore. I can't imagine why they would.
I mean, people are still making cassettes, so there's
Um,
there's got to be a niche audience for VHS out there.
I hope so, and I will explore that before I invest any money in putting something like that out. But you would think that there's got to be because
I
people are just
Yeah, I mean, there's people out there cutting records into pieces of wood. So surely somebody's making tapes.
yeah, it's worth exploring.
How do you envision this project working in a live setting, or do you plan to perform live?
Well, I hadn't planned to perform live, and then I sort of was trying to put together a release event, and I didn't want to necessarily just do a straight up listening party. I wanted to do something unique. So I am recreating the songs for a live setting with some sequencers and drum machines and loops and stuff, and I'll be playing bass live. Not all of the tracks are going to translate into that format, but enough to pull together a set, and then I will have also just some vignettes of playing tracks off the album, sort of in between as I get things reset for the next live track that I'd be performing.
Will you be using the visuals in a live setting too, or is that just a separate thing?
That's just a separate thing. I think in a perfect world, I would love to have the infrastructure set up to do all of that, but just for right now, and really getting myself off the ground as a solo performer and doing it all like it's completely solo. So there's no band; it's just me. Um, that I'm trying to take a metered approach to how much technology and everything I'm setting up, and the more you set up, the bigger chance there is for failure and technical difficulties. I want to avoid that.
Before we spoke, I was kind of going back through your history, and I ran across an article that I wrote for the Flyer, I don't, however many years ago, about your previous solo effort, or I guess it was a band. You can tell me maybe Wind versus Sun. And I mean, the first question that popped in my head looking at that was, what made you decide to use your own name for this and not like a band name or a project name?
Well, I think the biggest motivating factor is that I'm my main goal is in approaching it as electronic instrumental is I'm hoping to catch the attention of filmmakers and music supervisors. Um, so this is this is more like if you're familiar with Angelo Badalamenti, who did the score for Twin Peaks and a lot of other David Lynch things. I was like, if he can use his name, uh, then I feel like I want to use it's perfectly appropriate to just use my name and in this project and not try to come up with a catchy band name, something to have to explain another meaning for, all those types of things. Just made me want to just do it under my name.
Because if you just kind of step back in a vacuum, one would think that like the traditional rock record might be more suitably under your name, and like the experimental electronic project might be titled Wind versus Sun. Um, but I see why using your name for this works.
Yeah, and I think at that time when I made that record and had that project going, I don't think I would have envisioned that I would have used my name for a project. I don't think I would have considered it, but um,
A lot of people are uncomfortable with it. I mean, I work with Jeremy Scott, and I put out a solo record on him, and in less than a year he quit using his own name because he just was so deeply uncomfortable with it.
I can see the that side of it, but I have a pretty a unique name. Um, Dirk. There aren't a lot of Dirks out there. However, there's more than you would think that are in the music world if you type in Dirk into Spotify. As I'm by no means the only artist that comes up, um,
But you're Memphis Dirk.
but I am Memphis Dirk. Um, and of course, my last name, Kitterlin, a little bit of a tongue twister. If you don't know how to say it, it's so strange. A lot of people want to put a G on the end of it and make me Kitterling, as if I'm so lazy that when I pronounce my own last name, I leave off the G. Um,
There's an apostrophe at the end.
right. It makes no sense. But
No one gets my last name right either, though. It's my entire life. People have called me either Rager or Rager.
Reager, that's a good name.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a good stage name, sure.
For a moment there, I toyed with the alter ego Dirk Striker.
Oh, that's cool. That sounds like a cool wrestling name, actually.
Yeah, and that I think that's ultimately like it was a little bit maybe too aggressive for some of the tunes and some of the leanings of the music.
So, you said you're going to have a release show for this coming up where you're going to be playing live. When is that going to be? I don't know if we're going to get this out on time, but I'm curious.
That is on Saturday, November 30th
Ooh, I think we're going to get this out in time.
at the Lamplighter Lounge. Doors at 9, music at 10 p.m., $10.
Right on.
And
Can you hear my cat meowing in the background there?
no, I couldn't.
Sorry if I seem distracted. I was motioning for my wife to get the cat into the next room. But yeah, show coming up $10 on November 30th.
Yeah,
I'm
and Dinosauria is opening up. He's
I don't know that. I don't know that project.
it's another solo performer. Does like electric guitar looping, builds up soundscapes in that way. Really, Memphis has this really cool little underground electronic scene that is starting to bubble up, and
Yeah, the whole Memphis concrete thing.
yeah, that, and then there's a little DIY spot called the Warehouse that's actually connected. It's the garage that's connected to Young Avenue Sound.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
they
That's like
turned
a
that.
whole like audio visual space, right?
Yeah, they've turned it into a venue, and it's got two huge projection screens that sort of wrap around the side and behind the stage. Although they don't sync to audio, there's no way for you to run audio through the projector. So you would have it would be
Hmm.
it, yeah,
That's
it's a head scratcher.
that's interesting, man. I feel like I made my electronic record like way too early now. Like I put out that Johnny Romania electronic album came out in like 98 and utterly no one cared. But now there's like a whole scene of folks doing stuff and it's really cool. Do you mind me asking you about your day job for a second?
Go ahead.
Because you're telling me you're a school teacher. What do you teach and what age group are we
I
talking
am
about?
an I'm an Orff music teacher,
What is
which
what does that mean?
that means well, I teach it's K through 5 general music. So I teach
So we're talking little kids here.
yeah, so kindergartners through fifth graders, 5-year-old through maybe 11, 12-year olds. They have no choice. They have to come to music class.
Oh, I remember mandatory elementary school music class. Yes.
Once a week, and that was a kind of a left turn for me. I'm in my fourth year teaching, and before that, all of my experience was in like the nonprofit um, and music nonprofit, but then just general nonprofit. And after COVID, I just got really tired of working with the general public. Um, and in in a public facing nonprofit role that I was in was very taxing on me mentally, spiritually, and I needed music in my everyday life. I needed everything about my life to be connected to music. And so I went and got a master's degree that would allow me to have the proper licensure and everything to be a music teacher. And so I've been in it for like I said, I'm in my fourth year now, and it's a challenge, but it's very fulfilling, very fulfilling.
It's interesting that you've chosen to work with the, with the really young kids. Most of the people I know in music education are like, high school band teachers and things like that, who are, at a much more advanced level with the students. It's got to be challenging because I'm sure some of the kids just don't care at all, and then some of them are really into it, and like trying to engage them all at the same time has got to be really challenging.
It is. But I mentioned Orff music, but Karl Orff is a composer from Germany. And he, along with some of his associates and students, in the see, I don't want to say the exact dates because I don't know them off the top of my head, but we're talking about uh, World War One, between World War One and World War Two era of Germany. Um, and they put together this type of teaching process, and it's all based on elemental music. So the idea that you don't necessarily have to read music in order to play music. You can do some of it by rote, by listening, by echo imitation, and um, to me that really spoke to me, especially as somebody who started to drift into the electronic world. Of course, no electronic music in elementary school yet. Maybe one day, um, but a lot of the elements of the music that the kids are supposed to be playing in this type of educational setting reminds me a lot of like arpeggios and things that you would hear like an arpeggiator running in an electronic music would be kids playing like pentatonic type melodies or whatever on xylophones or and of course the actual source material when they did some recordings of actual kids playing in Germany, you if you listen to this like it's there's some pretty magical and special musical things that can be created with that type of instrumentation. And so that's the goal is to sort of get the kids to hear that and buy into that magic and just fall in love with music in general. Because it's such a rich experience whenever you can be involved in music.
I was gonna ask you if you worried about the kids like finding out about your like rock and roll past or life or whatever, but I mean, I would imagine with kids that young, that's not really a concern.
N Not really. The bigger concern is whenever my colleagues find out, or for a long time, I was I was still featured in a promo photo for a popular artist in town, and um, so even after I had stopped playing with the band, my picture would routinely be in the Memphis Flyer or online for different advertisements and things. So um, when other teachers and things would see me, they would, they're like, "Oh, Mr. Kitterlin, he's a rock star." So not necessarily a negative. I ham it up a little bit and play it up. Um, so.
Are you doing any rock band stuff?
Uh, not sort of. Um, Everything is sort of in early stages of rehearsals and things. I'm playing bass with a couple of different projects. I don't want to name drop anything yet. Uh, Actually, over the summer, I broke my shoulder,
Oh
so
no.
I took a tumble walking through a parking lot carrying equipment, and uh, kind of I dislocated my left shoulder and tore some things in there, and had to have surgery towards the end of the summer. And I am like I'm, I've been playing. I mean, I've been playing bass again since I've been out of my sling, but I haven't actually joined back into rehearsing with other bands. I've been practicing and getting my chops back up on my own. So
So this show on the 30th is going to be your first night back out in a while, eh?
that's it. Yeah.
Well, before I let you go, maybe tell folks where they can find the record once it's out.
Okay. It's going to be available on all the streaming platforms that you would think of. Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, Tidal, wherever you stream music, it will be available. It'll also be available on my Bandcamp, which you can get to easily. Just dirkkitterlinmusic.com takes you straight to my Bandcamp page, and that's where you would actually be able to purchase the digital copy of the record if you want, to throw some support toward the artist himself, myself, and check it out that way. That would be appreciated.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'll definitely be looking for that when it comes out. And Dirk, best of luck on the 30th, and thanks for taking some time to talk to me.
All right, absolutely. Thanks for having me.